Good morning, Benjamin. It's amazing to meet you finally. My name is Laura Smith, and we kind of came to meet each other in sort of an unusual way. I
Mhm.
had written a book called The Berkeley Book, A Story of Hope, Happiness, and Down Syndrome, and you found it. I asked if anybody from Berkeley's school years had any stories about him, and you came back with this amazing story about having known him. And we've been communicating on social media, but we've never spoken in person. So it's really exciting to meet you.
Oh, I agree. It's exciting to meet you too. I feel like I kind of know you already because, of course, I bought your book right away and I read it and it was phenomenal. And so I feel like we're old friends already. I'm Benjamin. I've lived all over the Western US. I grew up just outside Seattle, currently in Las Vegas. I'm a hospital speech pathologist. I work with people with neurological disorders. So I've been doing that for 12 years now.
One of the first things that you told me about when you messaged me was that you had known Berkeley when he was young in school, and the memory of him had an influence on what you chose to do as a career.
I don't think I'd be able to overstate Berkeley's influence in my life. I've known Berkeley since I was 10 years old in sixth grade. That's when I first met him. I was in Mr. McDonald's class. He sat next to me. And I remember looking over and seeing him. And as a 10-year-old, I'd never seen anyone with Down syndrome before. And so he was a little different. And I just remember feeling peace and this happiness just oozing out of him. He was just so friendly and so happy all the time. We also had another kid in our classroom. He had a traumatic brain injury. I believe he'd been hit by a car. And Berkeley sat next to him. So Berkeley was kind of in between the two of us. And I remember a lot of times that other student sometimes wouldn't want to do his work. He wouldn't even want to pick up a pencil to do the worksheets we're working on. And Berkeley was always working on helping him to get his work done on top of having done his own thing. But I feel like I became very close with him that year. Fast forward about 10 years, I was 20 years old. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I'd actually dropped out of high school, got my GED. There was one job that I had. I felt really strongly that I was supposed to quit. And I didn't know what to do because I needed a job. I had rent to pay and I thought, I can't quit this job. I need this job. So I went in, I talked to my supervisor at the beginning of my shift and I said, I'm not going to work here anymore. And that was the end of that. The next Monday, I started working in special education classroom in the local school district there. I was assigned to work with a high schooler that had autism. And I remember we would sit in the back of the classroom and I look around and just thought, this is where I'm supposed to be. And it's because of Berkeley. I remembered how much fun it was sitting next to him and getting to experience sixth grade alongside him. And I thought, that's the kind of people that I want to work with. And then I moved to California and I worked in a special ed class there. I also worked at a different school, working with kids with autism. In the high school special ed class that I was also working in, we had these people that came in, would take our kids out of the classroom and play games with them and talk to them. And I finally went out there and I said, who are you people? And they said, we're speech therapists. And I said, what's a speech therapist? I'd never heard of that before. So they explained what they do, who they are. And I thought, that's what I want to do. Because I'd been working in special ed for a few years now. And I really liked that. I worked in group homes too, for people with developmental disabilities. I worked with autism, Down syndrome, Fragile X, fetal alcoholism, you name it, I worked with them. But for me personally, I always had a special place in my heart for people with Down syndrome. I went to school then to get my master's in speech pathology. I ended up breaking from special ed when I was working on my bachelor's degree. I found out more about the adult disorders. And so my focus started to go more towards adults that have had strokes and things like that.
I'm curious, like in your day-to-day work, does his memory or your interaction with him still influence how you interact with the people that you help?
It's going to sound crazy because you think just because I'm talking to you that this is why I'm saying this, but I think about Berkeley all the time. I've thought about him so much over the last, 33 years now since I met him. And I only knew him for a short period of time. And so I didn't really interact with him after sixth grade. But the impact that he had just in the few months that I knew him has lasted me until now. Here's someone who could easily just say, I have an excuse to get out of doing things, and I never saw him use any excuses. He was always willing to help the people around him. So I thought, if he can do that, I can do that. And then that translates when I help work with my patients, of course. I walk in the doors and I can just kind of leave my problems behind and focus on the people that I'm working with. What is he like now, like day to day?
Amazing innocence and kindness and joy, but he's also very responsible.
Literally.
He loves to work. He's held a job most of his adult life. He takes that very seriously. He was bussing tables for one of the Microsoft cafes. And, there's always the annual health department inspection. And their cafe had a 100%. And Berkeley's boss called my mom and said, that's unheard of. 100% is unheard of. And she said, however, we really attribute a lot of that to Berkeley because he is meticulous about cleaning and part of his job was to bus tables, but part of it was to put things away. And it was just like their area was spotless. He loved that job, but everybody there loved him as well. And he was part of a van pool, and people, would be checking on him to make sure he was okay. Because he was just a really loved part of the community.
Well, I won't get emotional. Excuse me. Maybe I will. My throat's choking up already. He was such an integral part of me becoming who I am now. Like, I literally would not be sitting here right now in the house that I'm in the city that I'm in, with the job that I have, with the kids, the whole thing. Like, if I hadn't sat next to sixth grade Berkeley, who knows where my life would have gone, and it's kind of crazy to think that, but I really do think, see, here's where I'll get emotional. Like, I really do think God places people in our lives at the right time, the right place, when we need them the most. And I feel like, sorry, I thought I'd get through this whole thing without getting emotional, but I defended him from people because I know there were people that maybe weren't as nice as me about what he looked like, or, the hearing aids that he had. And I can remember my little 10-year-old self getting into fights, defending my friend Berkeley. It's that's led me to be where I am now, to defend people, to help people who otherwise can't help themselves, or need direction on how to do it. And so I know my life is a little different now because I don't work in special ed anymore, but it doesn't mean that those lessons that I learned from him early on, that I was able to grow throughout my work in special ed, don't help me now, because they absolutely do.
Benjamin, thank you. Thank you so much. I know you have a really busy life. You've got kids, you've got a job. Taking time to sit down and chat with me about Berkeley has really made my day. It's been an incredible experience to talk to you and someone that knew Berkeley way back when.
This has been really cool. So the honor really truly is all mine. So thank you for this opportunity.